In real estate wholesaling, there's 4 different formulas that you can use to calculate your offer and also to calculate your return on investment. But in real estate, there's a ton of different formulas that you'll use. But today, on how to get your first wholesale deal, day number 7, I'm going to teach you guys the 4 different formulas that you'll use to calculate your offer and also the return on investment for your real estate wholesale deal. First formula is the ARV, which you guys are familiar with the ARV, the 30% rule. And the next one is the 1% rule. The next one is the cash on cash. And lastly, we'll have your cap rate formula. Now, quick shout out to one of the subscribers for asking me this question that actually helped me think about this video. I had a different idea for day number 7, but this is very important. So I'm definitely want to lead with this today, because when it comes to calculating your offer, how to get your first wholesale deal, you have to know the ins and outs. You have to know the numbers, right? So the first thing that we're going to get to is the ARV. You guys are familiar with the ARV formula already, all right? Like, I know you guys know about the ARV formula. The ARV is something that you guys, you calculate, let's just say at $100,000, right? So let's just say we had to do $100,000 is your purchase price. So you're buying a property at $100,000, right? So at $100,000, and then you take 70%. Now, the reason why you take 70% is because most investors in certain markets, one thing I want you guys to know, with all the examples I'm going to share with you, it varies by market. So each market is going to be different. So the expected return in a market like San Francisco is going to be different than a market like Phoenix. But then a market like Phoenix is going to be different than a market like Cincinnati. So what I mean by expected returns, I'm talking about specifically with percentages. Cash does change somewhat, but specifically, cash can be more in certain markets or less depending on certain deals. It just all of it varies, but I'm going to give you guys the general idea here, but make sure you check specifics with your market. All right. Now, general idea, ARV, you multiply by 0.7 because generally speaking, investors want 30%. So at 30%, $70,000, right, is what this means. So their ARV, the after repair value, after you fix the property up, is worth $100,000. Now, if you multiply by 30%, that means the investor has to buy it at $70,000, right? Wrong. The investor has to buy it less the amount that needs to be put into it, the repairs that has to get put into it to make it worth the ARV, the $100,000, right? So let's say that this has to be, $20,000. Maybe you need $20,000 to put into it, right? So now you're at $50,000. At $50,000, that is the price that you get it from your seller at, right? No, that's not right. What you have to do is get it from your seller. What you have to do is get it from your seller at less the amount of the before repair amount. You get what I'm saying? So let's say you want to get paid $10,000. What you would do is subtract $10,000 from that amount, and you need to get it from your seller at $40,000. So you get paid $10,000, sell it to your end buyer at $50,000. Then your end buyer, they'll turn around and put $20,000 into the property, and then they will sell it at $100,000. That way they'll make 30%, being $30,000. All right, guys, that's the ARV. Real quick rundown for you. So, and again, comment anything down below. Send me a DM on Instagram at D1 Real Estate. Guys, I talk to you guys. This is what I do. So I'll get back to you. I don't use this stuff too often. I don't use social media. I really just post my stuff and get off of it. But I make my point to, check my inboxes and make sure that you guys are good. Any questions you got, hit me up. I'll get to you in due time, okay? So the 1% rule. Now, let's take that same $100,000, right? $100,000. The 1% rule, you want to be all in at 1% of the income, your monthly income, all right? So let's say that you got a property at $100,000. You guys see it right there. $100,000. Now you want to multiply that by 0.1, right? So let's multiply that by times 0.01. And that gives us $1,000, right? Now what happens here, let's give you an example of how this will work in real life. Let's say you have a property that the owner is trying to sell, and then they're trying to sell it at, $100,000. This $100,000, this property is rents it at $1,000 a month, the owner selling it at $100,000, it makes sense to an investor because it's already rented at $100,000 a month. They don't have to do anything to it except literally move in the property, or not move in, but you know what I mean, buy the property and collect their 1%. So that is a typical rule that some investors may follow, right? 1% rule. However, another thing to that, and again, guys, this is all general, it varies by area, but another thing to that, how you get paid. So you would, let's say you get this seller to calculate it at $90,000, right? So that way you can sell it all to an investor at $100,000. And also you would use this technique with single family, and you can really use it with all the way up, single family to multifamily, so anything that has money producing every month, or that is going to have money producing every month. But typically you do this with assets that are already income producing. Real estate assets that are already income producing is when you'll do it with the 1% rule. Not if it's like a vacant house. You don't really look at it with a 1% rule, or you could throw it out there, but you want to, probably lean more towards a cap rate if you want to look at it as vacant or whatever. All right. So, okay. The 1% rule, this is a good one because, like I said, you guys can calculate it, subtract the amount of repairs that may be needed. Let's just go through some numbers here again. 100,000, right? So let's say they want 100,000, right? Or that's how much you can sell it for because it's getting $1,000 a month. So with that being said, let's say, you got it at, 80,000, but then it needs like $10,000 in work in order to get the $100,000 a month. So now you're at 90,000. So to sell it for your, end buyer, you would sell it at 100,000. And the reason your end buyer will buy it because they know they can rent it at $1,000 a month. So that's just another way to look at it. Again, you can put your put your repairs in there to reverse engineer your number, to reverse engineer your offers as well, and to reverse engineer your asking price as well. So to be transparent with you guys, 1% rule is something that I very rarely use, but it is something that's quick for me to reference. So maybe that's why I really don't use it, because the numbers work out so quickly. $90,900. You get what I'm saying? It just works out so quickly. So it's something just have on there. It's something for you to think about, something quick. All right, cash on cash return. Now we're going to get a little bit more intricate. So let's say we have the same $100,000 house, right? $100,000 house. So this $100,000 house, now with your cash on cash return, it's different than your cap rate, right? So with your cap rate, I'm gonna explain this to you guys because it kind of relates a little bit to your cash on cash return, right? So the cap rate, the range that you would like to be in is 8 to 12%, and of course higher than 12% is better, but 8% being acceptable in a lot of areas, and then 12% being great in a lot of areas, and then 100% being fantastic, but plus 12% just being fantastic, right? So the reason why I explained that to you is because your cash on cash return is going to be a lot higher. The reason why your cash on cash return is a lot higher is because your cash on cash return does not include the net operating expenses, right? Your net operating income. So your net operating income is your income minus the expenses. So with your, I want to let you guys know something too. I'm gonna stop real quick. This is important, but it's only as important as you make it. At the end of the day, what's most important is your hustle. And I felt myself, I feel like some of you guys can get lost in this because there's so much stuff to learn. And also, I would like for you guys to listen to it and really try to absorb it, write it down what I'm saying. But it is a lot to learn. So don't get so absorbed in this. If you feel like you don't need to learn it right now, I don't blame you. Turn this off, get the call in, and that's how you really learn, by being in the field. All right, but to get back to it, when you are with your cash on cash returns, it's going to be a lot higher percentage because it does not include the expenses. So to give you an example of what this means, say you have a property, $100,000, right? Is what they, that's the purchase price of the property. So the purchase price of the property is $100,000, but the rent of the property is $1,000 a month, right? So $1,000 a month, and there's 12 months in a year. So this is calculated on an annual basis. So you do times 12, you get $12,000. Now you do $12,000. Now the $12,000 is the gross rental income received for the entire year. Okay, so gross does not include the expenses. So 12,000, you divide that by 100,000, and you get 12%, an acceptable number to go ahead and sell that to somebody for a cap rate type of thing, right? But it's also very exaggerated. So the reason why it's exaggerated is because people don't buy too much on a cash on cash return basis. They may reference it, but at the same time, what is it worth if there's expenses to the property? So this is why I showed you guys this one first, because it's kind of easier to transition to the cap rate. You'll see why. Let's start this back over. So cash on cash return, if somebody was to ask you what's the cash on cash return, you'll simply take the gross income per year, which is, let's say, for example, like I just did, you saw the example. So since you saw the example, you'll take the gross income per year, that 12,000, you'll divide it by the 100,000. And when you divide it by the $100,000 mark, one second, guys. When you divide it by the $100,000 mark, then you are able to go ahead and transition. When you divide it by the $100,000 mark, then you are able to go ahead and calculate your decimal, but then you turn that decimal into a percentage, and that's how you find out the percentage of your cash on cash return. Next, you have your cap rate. So the cap rate formula, to make it very simple for you guys, it'll have to be specific because you want it to be specific, but to make it very simple for like an offer or something like that, this is what you'll do. So say, and this cash on cash return works with all of them. You really don't use it obviously with a vacant house or something like that, but it really works with all of them. With the cap rate, it works with all of them as well. So the cap rate and the cash on cash return, with your cap rate to transition it, you are now in a situation where you can just simply have your $100,000, have the $100,000 to purchase price. This same property is being rented at $1,000. So this $1,000, I teach people, because I was taught actually, to just go ahead and take half of it, right? Because you want to do what's called the net operating income. You don't want the gross income. You want net operating income. Net operating income includes what? Expenses. Yes, net operating income includes your expenses. So let's just say your expenses are half of your monthly rental income. Your monthly rental income is $1,000. So you take that divided by 2, you get $500. You multiply that number by 12, you get $6,000. Another way to do that is go ahead and just do 1,000 times 12, you get 12,000. You take that 12,000, you divide it by 2. You divide it by 2 because why? We're just estimating that the expenses are half the monthly income, half the monthly rental income. What are the expenses, real quick? That's going to amount to taxes, maintenance, insurances, all of that. You know, property upkeep, all of that is expenses, all right? So $6,000, and then you take that divided by 100,000. You get 0.06. So that 0.06 is 6%. That 6% is not acceptable for a cap rate range. So just keep that in mind. So that's something you would, want to work. But one thing I love about numbers, one thing I teach you guys, men lie, women lie, numbers never lie. So even with the cash on cash return and cap rate, you can go ahead and calculate your offer into both of those as well, if you wanted to calculate it from an expense point of view. But I feel like it'll just I never personally used it to calculate my offer, but I've used it to reference it. Actually, I take that back. I have used it to reference it, because what I would do instead of making the purchase price $100,000, I would make the purchase price $110,000 if I wanted to make $10,000, right? And if I knew that a desired cash on cash return range, which is usually like 15 to like 20%, because it's going to be a lot higher, and it can be about half of your cap rate. Half of your cap rate percentage amount is usually your cash on cash return. So that being said, though, you'll just add your amount that you want to make to the purchase price. That's how you reverse engineer the numbers to figure out if it still works with your added wholesale amount. All right, so faithfully that makes sense, guys. I'll show you one real quick that works. 100,000, well, 1,500. So take that 1,500, multiply by 12, divided by 2. Boom, $9,000 now. This is 1,500 if you're buying it at 100,000, right? 9,000. So then you'll go ahead and multiply this by, or excuse me, you'll divide it by 100,000. Boom. Now you had 9%. So for a cap rate of 9% cash on cash, that works, right? So there it is, guys. I mean, the cap rate 9%, that works. So not cash on cash, but that works. All right, guys. So there it is. One thing I want to let you guys know real quick before I get you up out of here, guys. One huge thing to realize, this varies area by area, but let me explain why. There's areas in like Cincinnati, and I'm sure you have areas like this in your city or whatever you're, from your hometown, whatever you're doing business in. You have houses that you can buy at $45,000, but they're being rented at $900, maybe even $1,000, right? You can buy it at $45,000, rent it out at $1,000. It's probably like some places in Detroit, actually. I just thought about Detroit. I don't know why, but there's places in Middletown like that too. So that being said, though, the reason why is because you can buy it at $45,000, but it's being rented at $900. In Dayton, Ohio is like that too. A lot of those. It's because there's no equity, guys. So equity is the name of the game. Don't forget that. A lot of investors are buying these properties so they can buy another property. You get what I'm saying? So it's BRRRR, right? So buy, rehab, rent, refinance. You get what I'm saying? So that being said, you have to make sure there's meat on the bone at the back end for your investors. So that is the main thing. Don't just follow these formulas. Don't, like, this video was important. It's very necessary because you want to be an educated investor. I really had so much knowledge that I when I got asked that question, the knowledge just naturally poured out of me because I've done this stuff. I know this stuff. I know it. So me knowing it like this, it's useful to have just at the back of my mind to be able to utilize when I need to. It's like if you, I don't know, if you playing a game or something and you just, put your star player in whenever you need him to be in. You get what I'm saying? So same thing, you guys, if you play Pokemon, I don't play Pokemon, but you can use your card, that one card. You hit them with it and it's like, boom. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know. That being said, guys, as long as your heart is in your step, then you're already a success. I do appreciate you guys watching and tuning in. Don't forget to send me your comments, questions, all that. As always, get to stepping. And remember, equity is the name of the game. If there's no meat on the bone, then you don't got a deal.